The islanders of Skarvik knew better than to walk the moors at night. The elders whispered warnings of the Nuckelavee, a monster with no skin, its muscles glistening raw in the moonlight, veins bulging with black blood. Its rider, a humanoid figure fused grotesquely to the horse's back, had long, clawed fingers that dripped venom. Its breath was said to poison crops, kill livestock, and wither the living. But Mary didn't believe in such tales. She trudged across the moor under a swollen moon, her lantern swinging in the cold wind. The peat bogs gurgled, the stench of decay rising with each step. Her husband, Callum, had gone missing a week ago while fishing, and she refused to believe he had drowned. Something gnawed at her, an instinct, a whisper in the back of her mind, that drew her to this cursed stretch of land. The first sign of something amiss was the silence. No crickets, no wind rustling through the gorse, just the wet squelch of her boots. Then came the stench, a sickly metallic tang that clawed at her throat. Her lantern sputtered, the flame shrinking. A faint squelching sound echoed in the distance like flesh dragged across wet stone. Mary. Her heart stopped. The voice was low, guttural, and distorted, but unmistakable. It was Callum. She turned wildly, raising her lantern, and there he was, standing at the edge of the bog, his back to her. "Callum," she cried, running toward him. But as she got closer, she saw his head wasn't moving. His body was trembling, twitching unnaturally. Her breath caught as his head lolled backward, revealing his face, or what was left of it. Skin hung in strips, his eyes bulging from their sockets, his jaw unhinged like a broken doll's. "Mary," he croaked again, his voice gurgling with blood. Behind him, something massive loomed in the darkness. Her lantern flared briefly, casting its terrible form into view. The Nuckelavee, its horse-like body, was a grotesque nightmare of exposed sinew and bone, steam rising from its rotting flesh. The humanoid torso fused to its back, leered at her, its eyeless sockets oozing black ichor. It opened its mouth, revealing a row of jagged yellow teeth, and unleashed a guttural shriek that echoed across the moor. Mary stumbled backward, tripping over a root and crashing into the bog. The freezing mud sucked at her boots as the Nuckelavee surged forward. Its breath hit her, a wave of rot and bile that made her gag and claw at her throat. "Run!" Callum's broken voice rasped, but she couldn't move. The Nuckelavee's claws stretched toward her, impossibly long, slicing through the air like scythes. One swipe tore through her lantern, plunging the moor into total darkness. In the blackness, she felt it. A wet, skeletal hand wrapping around her ankle, pulling her into the bog. The cold muck filled her mouth as she screamed, her nails raking at the mud. The last thing she saw was the Nuckelavee's eyeless face looming over her, its mouth splitting open to reveal a gaping maw that dripped with blood and gore. Her screams echoed through the moor, fading into silence as the Nuckelavee dragged her under. By morning, only the lantern remained, half buried in the peat, its glass smeared with bloody streaks. The villagers whispered of her fate, their warnings more fervent than ever. The Nuckelavee had claimed another soul, and the moor, its cursed domain, waited for the next foolish soul to wander too close.